Sat Shri Akal, I'm Attar.
Hi, I'm Maneesha.
Welcome to our podcast, Two Best Friends. We're two best friends who are millennial mothers, working women, migrants to another country, talk about anything and everything that relates to us and is bugging us or is on our mind.
Yes, and today we are here again and in a different format where you'll see us both doing it virtually. And the reason is because sometimes you just have to make adjustments to life because otherwise it gets too much. And here we are making adjustments and still doing the episode. So super excited to bring this one up. This one's about fighting and our biggest fight yet and how we resolve our conflict. But basically, yes, we had a real fight. And what did it look like? It got spicy in our life.
I do want to say real fight, which we had to brainstorm and think about it.
While I don't know what it says about a relationship, that's another conversation, but it's not scripted. We talk about the real stuff, and this is another one, and it's about what happens when you clash with your best friend and it goes beyond a clash. So yeah, so I think setting before we get into it, we will first do a silver lining of the week, and Atar, you can go first.
Thank you, thank you. My silver lining for this week was actually last week. Last week, I went traveling with my family, with my cousin, his family, and my nephew and my son, Gyan. So it was silver lining because it was so out of my comfort zone. Traveling itself was not out of comfort zone, but the way I traveled was very out of comfort zone. I realized when we were planning that me and my cousin, we are only 3 months apart in age, but extremely different people. Where I like to plan everything, and he's like, everything is decided on the day or in just like in the moment.
In the moment, yeah.
In the moment, which is such an amazing way of living life, which I am not too familiar with. I like to plan everything. Even I like to think that I used to be a lot more spontaneous, but I feel like even my spontaneity now is so like organized.
Mm.
And that's happened ever since I feel like I've been living alone. I feel like I need to be in control of everything. And just learning a different way of traveling, it was so amazing. It was just so different and so good. It was just amazing time, just like reliving our childhood. And you forget how important family can be because you have that shared people in your life that you can talk about. The
Yeah. And
grandparents.
only they get that context as well.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thing about cousins or people you've grown up with.
Yeah. So it was just so amazing that it was so different, but didn't get on each other's nerves. I hope I didn't. They didn't. But it was just amazing. We did like the whole south of New Zealand, the South Island,
Yeah.
on the bus, as in like our own mini van. We drove around. So good.
Yeah.
I feel like that filled my cup so much. It
Yeah.
just helped me reconnect, not just with my cousins, but also my nieces who were traveling with us. And also the opportunity for Gyan to connect with them, which was
Yeah.
so amazing.
No, and it is good. I do think this planning thing. I mean, I don't know if you recollect, but when I'd come back from my travel last this year, beginning of this year, I was all about spontaneity and wanting to do plans on the thing. I think it's a cultural thing as well. Some cultures, and I'm just going to talk about Indian culture because that's what I'm familiar with. That's how it rolls. A lot of times, people do spontaneous things, and it's very much like, yeah, let's do it, and it happens, right? Things happen based on it, and I think that's what it is. Whereas here, it's almost the opposite, where everything's planned. So it almost takes a while, to adjust either or. But it's that I think it's that difference because
Yeah.
I saw that like here, and I think I've spoken about like Diwali. If Diwali is coming up, the planning for Diwali or Diwali party, for example, would happen in advance, right?
Yeah.
There, like invitation, at least a month. There, it's like 1 week in advance. How and people come as well, and you're like, what?
You just make it work. It's like you think when you think of India as to be very hectic, but the lifestyle is so chilled.
People just make it work, and
Yeah.
that's it, just accept it. So it's pretty interesting and different to how things are here. Yeah. Anyways, my silver lining for this week is well, I bought lots of books this week, which is very exciting. Yes. Yes, yes. I bought lots of books for myself, a lot of work books, like
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, were the books that was from the Amazon that
yes, yes, some of them were, but I bought from other places as well. But I bought, and I think its book is I'm setting up a space as well, And so
Yeah.
I'm really excited. So I'm, having all of that, and but also getting books. It's been a while because I mostly read on Kindle, so I don't get physical books. But I was very excited to buy books and have them physically in my hand. That's very exciting. Yeah. So I think I really enjoyed that.
That's so amazing. I bought shoes, gym shoes. Does that count? I bought gym shoes. Which,
Yeah, it
which
counts.
it's no, it's like you're nourishing your brain. I'm nourishing my body.
Well, it's equally important. The top part and the lowest part of your body both are very important.
Working or you
I would think the functioning of your life, you can't work with either or. So maybe like you can, but it's harder. But okay, cool. Thank you. Moving on to, I lost my whole track. I have lost what we were talking about, but coming back.
hang on. I am just so amazed by your silver lining of like buying books. आधी
What?
book से काम I don't know. I can't relate to it. Amazing for you. I just can't relate to it.
I enjoyed buying books, and that was really good. Like, and physical books. It's like when you enjoyed buying clothes last week because it was end of financial year. Rather, it's the same thing. We can have different joys. That's the thing
Of
about
course,
silver lining.
that's what it is about. Different joys.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But it's just like so contrasty that it's making me laugh.
yeah, yeah. No, it was good, and I think coming back into it, our conflict, because we may end up going into a conflict discussing this. So maybe we should just go to our other conflict. But okay, cool. So in I think if I count till up to three and tell me the conflict that you're thinking, and if I'm thinking the same conflict. All right. So one, two, three. It was last year.
Yes, on a group call.
It was on a group call. Okay. So what led up to the conflict? Do we
The
want to talk
are
about
we
it?
talking about that? That's the conflict. And
Yes,
just
yes.
for our listeners, we have to also say that when we were thinking about this and talking, we were planning to talk about this topic. We were thinking, and it took us a while to come with the one conflict that we had. So we have to say, we have to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and I want to kind of go into it further later in the episode because I'm like, how come? Because when you're close enough, you're going to have conflict. It's not like we don't have conflict. I just don't think we don't have those big fight, crazy, like throwing things at each other kind of fights.
हाँ,
Um,
पर ऐसे भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आज तक मेरा तेरे साथ नहीं हुआ, मेरे मन में भी नहीं हुआ कि मैं तुझे बोलूँ कि यार चपेड़ मारूँगी मैं।
that's true. Well, I'm just wise. Um,
I've just hit the inner zen कि नहीं रहने दो छोड़ो let it go.
but okay, let's go to that. So what it was, and the funniest part is, can you tell us about what do you remember the content of the conflict, Atar? Please tell.
I remembered in last 5 minutes what had happened. So
Yeah.
we started this group call, and
Something that's related to podcast.
yeah, that I don't remember, but we had this phone call, a group call. Out of four, it was three of us on that call. And I opened that conversation or that phone call saying that I am so overwhelmed. I have so much to do. It is just drowning me. That's how it started. Right. And we were just like, then we went on to have the normal conversation. And we started talking about public holidays.
Yes, and that's the weirdest part. So we talk about public holiday, not just public holiday. We start talking about Independence Day in India and
Yes.
Swatantrata Divas and how it's celebrated.
So
Right?
I think from what I remember, that Independence Day was over the weekend, and then they had called for a day off on Monday, something like that.
I think, I mean, regardless of the content, it was more, we both disagreed on how Independence Day was manaved in our school years.
Yes. So the disagreement was I was saying that any time you Independence Day, the following day you would have a public holiday. You said no, you don't recall it, and I said I do because you would have parades, and the next day would be off because everyone were tired
Yeah,
from it. So
yeah.
this was a conflict, right?
This was the conflict, and then it led up
Eh,
to
yeah, then you were just like नहीं यार नहीं ऐसे नहीं होता. I was like यार मैंने परेड की है मैंने की है स्कूल में छोटे होते हुए. I remember having day और उस टाइम पे हमारा ये यहाँ तक बात पहुंच गई थी कि ठीक है तुम्हारे एरिया चंडीगढ़ में होता होगा हमारे नहीं होता होगा हमारे हरियाणा में फिर आए हुए. And then we get to the point, "Yeah, Google करते हैं."
हाँ,
Then Google said, "नहीं ऐसी कोई बात." I was
हाँ,
like, "But I remember." After that, I don't know how it did. I
yeah,
don't know how. Oh yes, yes, I remember. Then you said you were just feeling sensitive. I
yeah.
think along those lines, you just said that, and I was like, what, like,
As I said, there's a lot going on for you out there.
yeah, that's right.
You're just very sensitive right now. And that got you saying, how dare you? How dare you use my mental health and my overwhelm on my face and gaslight me into this? And you just went really crazy in that moment. And when I said that, I calm down. You were like, I'm not, what do you mean? How dare you? And you got really like upset with me.
Yeah, okay. My account was that when I was that happened when you said like, oh, you are really stressed, and you're being sensitive about it, and I said, all I'm saying is that it happened in my area. Maybe it was different in yours. And then you talked over me, and I was like, what's the point of talking if you're going to talk over me? And then I just left it.
Yeah, and Attar left the call, and I'm just looking at the other person, and we both are looking at each other and saying, "What happened? We don't know." But we just, yeah, that was the end of our conflict. So we've never had that before that, right? We've never had moments where we would cut the call or disconnect or get angry and upset to that. Yes, were there any underlying tensions and build up? I think one of the thoughts I thought was one, we were in both two different locations in our own different worlds, right? So the opportunity, like you said, you already had started the call saying there's a lot happening, or we didn't really get to check in or get to kind of process what's happening in our own spaces. And I think that was one of the things I thought also why we got to that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And at that time, I don't think, I think that was the only time I felt extremely hurt. Not necessarily by you, but by the situation, and how I reacted and how I just stormed off that chat. Um,
There's a lot going on for you, so I think that's fine
yeah, being so understanding now.
right now. Well, I was in a Zen mode right then in Goa, enjoying myself in my life. Okay. Um, I guess I'm assuming there was things you were holding in as well because it was really not about that conversation, was it?
No, no, not really. I think I wasn't actually holding in anything. I, in general, get really, really annoyed when someone says something from my point of view, from my account, that, oh, you must be feeling that. That's how it is. And I'm like, no, actually, you shouldn't be commenting on that because that's not your place to say it. That's in general how I react or act in any way. It doesn't have to be you, even like anybody else, if they say, like, oh, you're feeling that, that's how why you're going to say this, or you're tired, that's why you can't pay attention to such and such thing. And I'm like, how do you know I'm not? So these things I anyway get annoyed with, because I try not to do it or put it on another person. I try not to have it on me
But
either.
would you have responded differently if you were not? There was a lot, like at that moment when he said,
If I wasn't overwhelmed, I would have been like, chal ya chup kar, and moved on.
yeah.
At that
I
time,
guess the other thing is, do you also think one of us in that moment there was a lot going on, so you were thinking about other things as well. But almost like we went into that dynamic of not wanting to talk about it, but shut down about it, but also fix it or try to go through it a lot, which was not really needed.
not really needed.
Yeah.
Because I think after it had been like an hour or so, I was more reflecting on my action and my emotion than be in a blame mode. That I reacted this way because I was told this, or Manisha did this. ऐसा नहीं था. मुझे ये था कि मैंने कहाँ गलत किया. How can I fix this? I straight away went into that mode.
Interestingly, that say you saying that, and for me, I think I reflected in that moment and said there was more need for me, like what you're saying, like you don't have to express other people's emotions to them; they
Yeah.
can work it out as well. And there's a context for things like that, where you can talk about, hey, what's going on, but I didn't need to go in and say, oh, this is what you must be feeling, and this is what it is. And I think that was my reflection from that space because sometimes we do, we say things that you don't need to.
Yeah, exactly. But then we spoke, we not even spoke, we exchanged two messages where I apologized every day.
I can't. Yeah, I have got to say that repair part has gone from my memory somewhere.
हाँ,
So, what helped you cool down from there?
ये करना आता है बाद में कब कैसे ठीक हो वो मुझे याद
No,
नहीं।
because maybe we just, it worked out and that's why. But what happened? So, what helped you cool down?
What's that?
What helped you cool down after
What
that?
me cool down? Well, as I said, like it was just me, the space from the conversation. And
Yeah.
just thinking about it, I thought about it and I was like, oh, yeah, no, I shouldn't have stormed out. I shouldn't have done this. And then I just straight away messaged you saying that, look, this is how I felt in the conversation.
It took us a while though. I think it took us a few days before we actually reached out to each other. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna look for that message
Yeah.
now. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's I can see the message now. I have it. But you're very clear about how what happened and very expressive at that. Yeah.
एक दिन इतने दिन नहीं मैं
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, so we had a bit of back and forth, and I guess we spoke to each other after a few days of processing, but it seems like we reached out to each other. So, were you thinking about it after that?
नहीं बस हमारी बात होगी बात खत्म.
And I
We
guess,
yeah, we talked about it and we just like on kind of within an hour we ended
yeah.
that conversation as in like um we acknowledged, we apologized and we moved on.
And I think that, yeah, like reaching, yeah, you reached out to me after that, so giving you that space, and then we did a bit of exchange of messages,
Because
and
you know why I also reached out? Because in that space we both are very different. Like in that space of when we had that argument or whatever we had, that disagreement, we are very different. It impacted me, I stormed out. That was my reaction.
I was absolutely impacted because, um, see, from my point of view, I absolutely was like, okay, there's something going on which is beyond me, right? It's not about me. That was my thought, right?
Hmm.
Um, but and it was not about the argument, but yes, like the abruptness of it, I was like, what the f, like we could have, because generally we, it's not like that's the first time of our conflict. Like I can think of that being the most, okay, stormed out, but we do have conflict where we have lots of arguments about things where we absolutely do not agree with each other, but we kind of reach to a point where like, okay, fine, whatever you do,
Hmm.
we could not do that in that moment,
Yeah, I
which
think.
means there's something going on personally to be able to get not to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that was done from the start of the conversation until we resolved that. I think everything was done within the matter of, I think, 3 hours. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
तो उसके बाद मैंने नहीं कभी सोचा. It didn't change anything for me. Nothing. ठीक है. अब
I
तेरे
don't think it's changed anything. Yeah, like it's not been such a big deal. Like, are there moments, I've got to say, are there things that you feel like in our friendship though, and this is just going a bit wild, that you feel like you wanted to say things to me and you haven't told me?
No, but you know what? I recently learned something from you about you. About you. That you do that with me. Not really like that malicious do that, but you know how like नहीं नहीं बताती हूँ. Remember like about I think a couple of weeks ago we were hanging out like at your place, right? That night I realized that you love instigating me. You love riling me because you self confessed it, and I'm like, ah, it's not a bad thing. You know how like
Yeah,
siblings just like ungli karte rehna, rile up karte rehna. And that's when you said that you were like, I love riling her because I get riled up.
yeah, yeah.
And
Maybe I don't know. I didn't really think about it.
right,
So
what I learned about this, about you or about us, is that it's just a way of like a love language. I do that, say, with someone I know very well, and I will rile them. I know this really like bothers them, and I will
I
keep.
guess what is the reason for riling someone up? What do you think it is?
I think in that moment, the way you do it is just for fun, just to keep having the conversation. You just love having bloody D and M conversations.
No, I also like maybe challenging, and especially people around me. And I think that yeah, I do that with my mother as well. And that's why I think why you're saying maybe because we've had that long. I like challenging people and people who are close to me to think about things because I sometimes see something. Yeah, same for me, right? Like people who are close, sometimes you challenge them to think about things from another perspective or challenge them about what's happening in their life or whatever. And maybe that comes across as not as good. I get it. And yeah.
इतना ये गुड बैड की बात नहीं है इस वजह से बोल रही हूँ because you yourself said it कि I love riling her up.
In that moment, yes. Okay. Coming back to this, so that's something you learned. Um, I guess but yeah, like I don't think we have big conflicts, and the reason we don't have big conflicts is not because we don't want to, like, it's more that we just resolve it or we talk through it. That's my understanding of it. Like, it's not like we don't have disagreements. We have lots of time. If someone, a third person or friends are with us, they tell us a lot of times how we behave like siblings, a lot of times, and we fight. So we don't recognize it, but I think it's there where we fight with each other like siblings or talk to each other like siblings or annoy each other, but we don't recognize that as being any of that. Is that, do you think that's what it is?
100%. I think this is exactly what it is. Like, we can be in the middle of the conversation amongst people, and I can say, "Yeah, chup kar mole."
Yeah, and also like it sounds like bickering and fighting, but
Yes,
it's not
what?
for us.
It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think yeah, and I think that's what it is. I don't, maybe it's years of relationship, maybe it's something else. I don't know what it is.
I think it's also our age, not just as in like in this relationship, but just in general, our age and maturity towards every relationship in our life. I
Yeah.
don't think there is as such big conflict that I have with anybody in my life. If I do, then they're not going to be part of my life.
Yeah. And if I do have big conflicts, generally I just talk with them. I like having honest and open conversations, and I'm like, just tell me what it is. Like, because conflicts are part of life, but it's more the how you react to them or relate to them, and a lot of times. And yeah, you're right. I don't have space for anyone who's not open to that at some point.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Do you yeah, I guess, and maybe that's our style, and maybe neither of us are avoidant as such, and maybe that is, at least in our relationship. Do you have, I mean, in this space, I'm sure we are in other spaces, do you have um, any other thoughts from there? So you saying you don't have any moments where you're like, I'll have to say this to Manisha, but I'm not sure if this is the right moment.
No, I
Mm.
don't think so. We have such. Oh, I feel not comfortable bringing anything up to you. I feel like I bare my soul, everything in front of you.
Mm.
If there was anything that bothers me about you, I would say that to you too.
Mm.
But that's what I'm saying, that I've reached the point in my life that I will do that with anyone in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have that thing left in me to please anyone or to say something that I don't mean it.
Mm. Mm. And
So
maybe, yeah.
yeah, nothing that I have been holding it in. जो होता है फिर मैं बोल ही देती हूँ.
Yeah. Have you had any friendship breakups or blow up generally, except for, of course, not us because we're still here? Any other in the 30s? I know we spoke about 20s, but 30s.
I may have drifted away from people, but you
Mm.
know, you can come close to work people and then you just sort of like drift apart because you don't talk to them as often. But at one stage, you are quite close to them because you have that shared work trauma with them.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's not that I've actively like
But no drifting apart. It's not a conflict or anything. Yeah. Yeah.
nothing. Like if I oh, actually, I lie. I lie. Oh my God, how did I forget about this particular friend? Yeah. So, I had this friend, and it's so sad that I'm talking in the past sense. I had this friend, we used to work together, but we remained quite good friends after that job as well. And then we would still see each other. Everything was really good. And then once he had break up with his girlfriend, and he came to me for advice. And I said to him, I was like, "Look, I'm quite busy. I don't think I'm in the right space to give you the advice." He insisted that I give him the advice. I gave him the advice. That backfired. And then he came to me
So
saying,
he took the advice, I'm assuming.
he took it to the T. Then he came to me and was like, "Oh my God, your advice was so shit. I just, that my ego's bruised. I am just so like embarrassed, and that's because of you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. What do you expect from me now?" And he was like, "I want you to apologize." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Okay.
And I was like, "It's been like 7, 8 months. Why didn't you come up to me before this?" And it was very nice of him to say. He was like, "Look, I was in the middle of losing my bond with my brother, my like siblings, and you were like my sibling, and I was not ready to let go of you. Um, and I knew it because he really relied a lot emotionally on me, because he did see that as my his other sister, because I used to do everything that his sister did, but then they drifted apart. And he was like, I was on a big drift apart from our siblings and I didn't want to lose you. And I was like, I felt bad, and I assured him, apologized to him. Um, and things got okay after that, but something shifted between us.
Something remained in there.
Yeah, and I think it remained more from his, actually, maybe from my end as well. And the worst thing was that we both were or are exactly the same. So he's like the male version of me. So that means that we both have that thing of a bit of ego that, okay, fine, if you're not going to contact me, I'm not going to contact you. You can just like F off. And one day I messaged him, he saw the message, he never replied. And after that, we've not spoken. And it's been like almost like over, I would say, 15 months now. We haven't spoken to each other.
Like in friendships sometime, I mean, I know we all have egos and stuff, but I think you just have to let go. Like, there are moments, even in our relationship, in my other relationship, where I kind of doubt certain things. I'm like, why is this person doing it like this? Or, something's going on there and she's a bit off from me and stuff, right? But you almost have to let go of that and actually reach out or say what's happening or talk and stuff. And that kind of just clarifies for you that actually that's whatever's there's stuff going on for them, but it's not about your relationship. But it feels like that, but you almost have to let go of that space in your head to be able to do that and reach out.
Yeah, but I think that just made such a big void that we couldn't even reach out to each other.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, repair. I guess it's not. I feel like with us and what coming back to it, it's not because we've never had fights, right? It's because we have learned how to repair.
Yeah, that we
Because
don't
that's the more
never get
important part,
back. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's because you're gonna have conflicts. I don't think you can avoid conflicts in relationships, but it's
yeah.
about how do you go beyond. Sometimes it's the ego, sometimes it's about your questions, sometimes it's your self doubt, 400 things. But how do you go beyond that?
Have you had any loss of friendships or issues that you were not able to resolve? Come on, 30s B's kuch bhi make me feel better. So I'm not the only one.
See, okay, just to clarify, it's because I don't make very close relationships.
Yes,
That's
you
my
do. Yeah.
I do, but I make with very selective people, right? And it's over the time, like with work, it just doesn't happen for me. It takes time. I have good relationships, but I don't make deep relationship for me to be impacting me to that point. There are very few people in my life over the years, in my 20s, in my 30s, that I have just had, and that's it. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's what it is. Like but I have a good number of people in my life in India here that I have, and that's it. But I have other relationship, but it never goes to that point, and I'm okay with that. Like I don't have expect, so I feel like it just doesn't go further.
Yeah, I think that also going back to that the issue that I had with that friend, I feel like I am the same in that way, that it takes me a very long time to have that deeper relationship. I can have amazing, but I never get to the point where I'm like, oh, I can't live without that person or without that relationship. So when that is somewhat superficial, it becomes harder to want the need of repairing it.
Like you, and I mean, in your 20s and 30s, you do drift apart from so many people, right? There are only very few people in your life, and that's everyone. No one's special. We all have different people in our life that we connect with, and that's what it is. But doesn't make the other relationship less. It's just different, right? I've met some amazing, beautiful people in my years, but we just don't have that maybe because of life and just haven't had
Mhm.
that capacity to go deeper in that.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm like, which is fine, absolutely fine. And I think that is what it is. Like, but yeah, I haven't had conflict. Yes, I've had conflict with people in my life, even with my close relationship with you, with other people. But I kind of like repair, like, talk about it or just discuss it. And generally, I find that works out.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Thank you. Bye.